Hi, everyone, and thanks to Margaux Nijkerk for being here with us today. Margaux works at Coindesk, and she knows everything about the Ethereum ecosystem and layer 2 solutions. Margaux, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you end up in the crypto space? Like, why were you interested in this? And I saw your CV. It was a little surprising to see your path and how you ended up there. I'm curious about it.
Yeah, no, sure. Well, like I said, thanks for having me. So I'm a Ethereum protocol reporter at Coindesk, which is a crypto news outlet, basically covers everything related to Web3, blockchain, crypto issues. And I've only been there for about 2 months now. I just graduated I guess it's been 3 months from the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. I got a master's degree there in international economics. And I have sort of like a policy background. So I had a regional focus on Europe and focused also like I got a minor in information security. So I focused on like tech issues in the space of like international affairs. But prior to that, like you said, I came from sort of a different background. I worked on Middle East foreign policy, specifically on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and focused on US foreign policy towards that and European policy towards that. And I lived in Israel for a little bit and in Tel Aviv, and that's sort of where I was first exposed to blockchain startups. And I always just like thought it was interesting. I was working on like completely different thing. Mostly focused on national security issues, but it sort of always intrigued me, the startup space in general in Tel Aviv and specifically blockchain. And then I went to grad school.
They're very great startups right there in technology.
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on there. So and just like really brilliant technologies coming out of Tel Aviv. And so that was always at the back of my mind. And when I went to grad school, I loved my time in Israeli policy, but even the way that the Americans look at the Middle East and the Europeans that work with the Middle East is an issue of the past. It's not a big concern, right? People are looking at China, people are looking at Russia, people are looking at Southeast Asia, and I knew that I personally, I wanted to work on an issue of the future, and so I was like, okay, what is it? Is it tech? Is it climate? What's out there? And so that's sort of how my background with Israel and the Israel-Palestinian conflict and technology came into the space. And I was like, how does that translate? What issues in international affairs can deal with this? And so that's how I sort of decided, like, I wanted to make that jump, go into Web3.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, no, it was super exciting. Took up some classes like afterwards, like outside of it, just to sort of get like a base hold.
I've seen you followed the one at Stanford School of Engineering in blockchain.
I took a class through the Stanford School of Engineering on cryptocurrencies, which was great, like to have sort of an initial base layer of how cryptos work, how it works in terms of regulation. And then you can take some of these, like you just Google them online, like you can take some certificates. I took one with MIT on blockchain technology itself and like some issues around blockchain.
Was it taught by Gary Gensler?
No, it was not taught by Gary Gensler.
Because you know that he has a course online, and this is for everyone who's watching this. I will put a link. He published this in 2018. He taught the course at MIT. It's called Blockchain and Money, and it was a wonderful course.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. So yeah, Stanford was great. I took one at MIT, and then I took this was my favorite one, was the I think it was called like the economics of digital assets. It's through Wharton. And that was super interesting. That was sort of like, how does blockchain technology, how has that been used and applied into like mainstream sectors? And so that was really interesting. And so the time came, and I think like for my own personal goal, like right now I'm in the technology, which has been super fascinating, and especially because it's coming up to the merge. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but I think in terms of like from this perspective in international affairs, there's a real lack of understanding of how this technology works and how changes in technology can really affect like policymaking decisions, as well as vice versa, how policymaking decisions can affect technology. And so I like from now, I want to be in the technology part of it, understand how that works. And I think that would be a real benefit moving forward in the future to being able to craft like the right kind of regulation around it.
Yeah, we definitely need, and in the US as well, need more people that on the policy side have had real experiences about what they're deciding. And this example is great. What do you think about the current regulation in the US and the moves that are being taken by the Congress and by the SEC?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of debate going around it. Disclaimer, I'm not a regulatory reporter, but I keep up with it.
Yeah.
Like out of passion, because that's my bread and butter policy. So there's been a lot of discourse around it. Right now, they're still trying to figure out whether crypto regulation should fall under the SEC or the CFTC. I think crypto aficionados would prefer it to be under the CFTC, making it a commodity, like the regulation for it would make it generally more favorable. There was like this bill that came out from the Senate with Senator Loomis and Senator Gillibrand, sort of like providing the framework of how like the regulation around this, like, I think it was mostly around like stable coins and crypto in general would come out. So there's still like a lot of debate going on around it. And I think, unfortunately, just the way that like politics works in this country, I'm based in New York, so that's why I say this country. But we're heading into an election cycle, so that might not be like the most pressing issue. Okay. But I think there's like a lot of potential for it to become a bipartisan issue, but also like there is potential that it could become a partisan issue. So we'll see. I think from a crypto perspective, it'll be more favorable for it to be put under the CFTC. The two senators from Wyoming and New York have put it as a commodity under their bill, but yeah.
That's good. About the big jump into this future thing, which is blockchain that we were talking about at the beginning. I remember when I set up my Kraken account almost 2 years ago, and there was this thing, the new thing of staking. There was this possibility of staking cryptos, the proof of stake cryptos. And I checked Ethereum and it was saying, you can't stake this crypto now. This crypto may never be staken unless the merge happens. And here we are in 2022, and in a week, I think in September, this September, the merge is going to happen. How surprising is this?
I mean, it's not, I don't find it so surprising because, well, one, I cover this kind of stuff. So I like knew it's coming, and I sort of like have these dates like constantly on my mind. But the merge has been like, yes, the merge has been postponed years on years on years. And it's supposedly, I think it is happening starting in September. So for those, like, I'll just give some context for the audience that might not know what the merge is. So Ethereum currently is a blockchain that works under the proof of work mechanism. And so it's going to be switching over to the proof of stake mechanism, basically changing the dynamics and the way that the blockchain is built. So right now on proof of work, you need miners to be able to add blocks to the blockchain, and they mine a block and they get a reward from it. If you're like, Bitcoin is right now using a proof of work blockchain, and so they get a certain amount of Bitcoin. And now when it moves to proof of stake, it'll change it to validators. And so what you can do is anyone basically can stake 32 ETH. I think that's about, I checked this morning, I think like it's just below 1.5K US dollars. So I guess it's similar to the euro right now because it's almost 1-to-1 ratio. Yeah. But basically that means that you need like, I think it's like $48,000 to be able to participate as in the staking process, which is a lot of money. And so there are ways that, like you said, that you put in Kraken. So they have a, I'm pretty sure they have a staking pool, but at least they run validators. And so anyone is really able to participate in this process. Obviously this is like unheard of. It's basically like, I like to think of it as like, you're in a car and it's like, you're on the highway and it's moving, and you're in like a gas car that uses gas, and you need to change it to electricity without like stopping the car, because if you stop the car, like you're going to get in a car accident, right? There's all these other things. And so
this is a great metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the technology behind it is like, but how do you keep the car moving and change the mechanism of this? And so it's like an unprecedented event. And so they've been running a whole bunch of like test networks. They've been all going pretty well so far. Or like really well so far. There always could be an issue of syncing and like nodes unsyncing or not lining up correctly, but blocks not lining up correctly. But I think it's been a long time coming. And so, yeah, like you said, it's going to happen next month on September 6th. Bellatrix, which is like the first part of the merge, is going to be activated or gets an upgrade, and that sort of kicks off. And then the computers, or the nodes, I should say, or Bellatrix gets an upgrade, and then eventually it's going to merge, I think, somewhere between like the 10th and the 20th. I think the objective was like the 15th or the 16th. It just depends on like the hash rate, which is like the computational power. And yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, you were saying something?
No, go for it.
Yeah. Let me understand this. So one of the goals of this merge is getting to more decentralization. But you said that the cost of staking is still pretty high, around $58,000. So how does this two things?
That's a great question. And like, we're all sort of grappling with it. It depends who you ask, right? Like, so proof of work right now, well, let me back up. So the goal of the merge is actually not to make it decentralized. It's like actually just to make, like, the main goal of the merge is to make it more energy efficient. Right now, when it goes to proof of stake, it'll reduce the energy by 99 point, I think it's like 5%. Anyway, yeah. 99%.
Yeah, and Vitalik Buterin said 99.9%. So.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, like, energy is going to be completely capped. I think there are people who have like made arguments that proof of stake is more decentralized than proof of work, and others have made it other ways too. So proof of work right now, if you want to be a miner, you have to have like super specialized computers that are super expensive, and you need to, in order to mine a block, you need to like, and we had a debate about this on my team actually the other day, but you need to complete, I think we decided on the word, a difficult problem. Like, it's not a complex math problem, but it's difficult in the sense of like probability. And so the computer does that for you. Now, not everyone can like invest in that kind of hardware, right? There's only certain like mining pools that can do that. And so that's how those miners have sort of like taken control of the mining process. In theory, you can just stake with proof of stake, just stake as 32 ETH and you're part of the process. But like you said, it's $48,000. Not everyone just has $48,000 lying around. So what you can do is you can put it into a staking pool and say, this is how much I'm willing to contribute. And as a process, like, they will take all that staked ETH from participants together and run that. Now, when you also look at data, the like validator node operators, most of them are based in like first world countries and like exceedingly in the United States. I actually don't know what the figures are in Europe, but most of the people
lower than in the US. Yeah,
probably, right? Probably, that's a fair guess. But most of the validators that participate on the Beacon chain, which is the proof of stake chain on Ethereum, are US based. So yeah, these are questions that we're going to have to deal with moving forward. Like, how, like, we just don't know, you know, we're gonna have to see how it plays.
Yeah. And you were talking about the US and Europe. I was going in Canada. They had this conference you went to, you told me.
Yeah.
What's the environment there?
It was great. It was my first time in Canada, which was really cool. But on top of that, like, I think I went to the Blockchain Futures Conference, which coincided with ETH Toronto. And for those who don't know, Ethereum is a Toronto product, a Canadian technology, and they really took hold and like stock of the fact that like this is what they've created. It's really like, it's,
and they're proud of it,
right? They as they should. And it was great. Like there was a lot of stuff going on around privacy issues. There was a lot of talks going on about regulation, specifically Canadian a lot, which was super interesting. What else is going on? Layer 2, like, once
about the fans of one city, I saw a clip of the conference, and I remember like there was Vitalik who put this shop in Berlin. Then he said it was in Berlin with the Bitcoin logo, and he said to the crowd, where is it? And everybody said Toronto. And he said, I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but it's not in Toronto. But yeah, I saw a lot of excitement.
Yeah, it was really exciting. And I think people were, nervous. We're sort of still in a bear market. But it just felt like the energy was up. It was really great. I had a great time.
And in this conference, is there a lot of possibilities to connect with other people that work in the space, networking?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was busy going up to everyone because I wrote a piece, co-wrote a piece with one of my colleagues about just the mood of the conference, and that's if someone on this who's listening to this wants to get into journalism on in crypto, it's a great way just to go up to people like, hi, I'm writing a piece about something. I would love your take. What's going on? And that's how I just went up to a bunch of people and was like, I'm working for Coindesk. I'm writing a piece on the conference. What are your thoughts?
Great.
Yeah.
And how often do you have to write for Coinbase? Do you have a minimum articles that you have to publish?
We don't have minimum. It really depends on the week and what's going on. This past week, I think I had 4 published. I have 3 or something in the works. The week before that, maybe it was 1 or 2. It really just depends on what's going on. Obviously, when something is breaking news, that needs to go out fast. But yeah, it's been great so far.
Yeah, another point about Ethereum that's very interesting is scalability. Ethereum has one of the highest, I think, number of developers behind it that's working on it. And I was wondering, what's your take on the speed, TPS, transaction per second?
Yeah.
And the competition with Visa and MasterCards, and how's it gonna go?
I can't really compare it to Visa and MasterCard, quite frankly, because I don't really have the knowledge of Visa and MasterCard. I think right now, it depends on how many people are on the network, right? So that's part of the reason why they're moving the blockchain they're merging the blockchain over to proof of stake, is because the next chapter of Ethereum will be all about scalability. Right now, it's just about efficiency or energy reduction. And I think that's also a common misconception that people have, that this is the grand finale for Ethereum, and it's no, this is actually just the beginning. So right now the merge is about energy reduction. The next step will be about scalability, where they'll be introducing a whole bunch of different things like sharding, which is basically breaking up the blockchain into mini blockchains and making scalability more accessible. And another cool product is rollups, optimistic rollups, zero knowledge proof rollups, which basically takes the transaction outside of the layer 1 and does a whole bunch of math to validate the transaction, and then posts it back onto the layer 1 blockchain, and is sort of here's the proof. Or you optimistic rollups work with you have to show, you have a certain amount of time to show the proof, and zero knowledge rollups does the proof for you and posts it back on. So there's a lot of scalability things that will happen in the future.
Yeah, I just checked the transaction per second in Visa is 1700, and it was much low, it was around 716 for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And Buttering was saying that after the next step, I don't remember if it's the splurge, the one after the merge.
Yeah.
It will probably get their goal is 100,000 per second.
Right.
Which
right.
He did be
yeah, he did say that in his Paris conference. That sort of got buzz. I remember I wrote an article on it. I don't remember. There's the merge, the surge, the purge, the splurge. I think it is that. I don't even remember.
They all rhyme. It's something.
Yeah. It was clickbaity, but it worked. So, but yeah, scalability is going to be the next big thing for Ethereum, I would say.
And another guy is Charles Hoskinson, that became famous, and he worked with Vitalik Buterin in Ethereum at the beginning. Then he created his own project, ADA Cardano. And what do you think about ADA?
Honestly, I haven't dealt that much with Cardano, so I can't really comment that much about it. But I think one thing that people don't realize in the crypto space is that there's a lot of there's a lot of inspiration from other products coming off of each other. Like for Ethereum specifically, like Vitalik was fascinated by Bitcoin, and that's how Ethereum came into being. It was just sort of like, from what I remember is that he saw Bitcoin and it was like, this is a great product in terms of making finance more accessible to people who have difficulty accessing traditional finance or getting through financial barriers. But why don't we use that technology to power Bitcoin to create all sorts of different things? And so when there's like I hate the Twitter debates where there's like, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, or like I'm a Ethereum maximalist. But like what people don't realize is that this technology, and like Vitalik also, I think, worked at Bitcoin Magazine. Like people don't realize that. But you know, so there's a lot of inspiration constantly going on between the different products. And the different
it started like you started writing articles about blockchain. Yeah. Exactly.
So maybe I'll come up with my own thing. I don't think so, but maybe I'll come up with my own thing.
We will follow it.
We'll never know.
Yeah, and about the environment around Ethereum, the layer 2 solutions. Have you done some research about that?
Yeah, I've started to work a little bit on like one of my colleagues is a little bit more well versed in this, but roll-ups I know is going to be a big thing. Sharding is going to be a big thing. What else on layer 2? Layer 2 is basically just supposed to make it like make Ethereum more scalable, which is exciting. I think it's like sharding they want to start introducing in early of 2023. So that's soon.
Okay, great. Do you have anything to suggest about, you know, people who want to enter into this world, what they should study, how they should approach, how important is the coding part or any other corner of it?
So in terms of like jobs or just in terms of interest? I mean, I can tackle both.
Both, but in terms of job as well, yeah.
So in terms of jobs, I mean, so I have no coding experience, like none. My undergraduate education, I was a Middle East major. Like I'd studied the politics of the Middle East and I was a dance minor. I competitively danced ballet for about 20 years of my life. So I think the nice thing about the Web3 world is that it is a newer space, like compared to other traditional mainstream world, like, you know, whether it be politics, finance, technology is also pretty new, but it's a 10-year space basically, which is like 100 years in the Web3 world, but yeah. So really, like, there's just so much growth needed, like that's to come, and I personally believe that they are going to need people from other industries to be able to translate what's happening in this space to the rest of the world. And like, that's happening. Yes, you can go to like an investment bank and then become a crypto trader, or you know, you can work in a startup in Silicon Valley and then work on these products. But also like I said, at the beginning of our talk, is that especially since you have an interest in foreign affairs, there's not a big understanding, or like they can't comprehend. I'm not trying to generalize, but legislators have a hard time understanding how this technology works, because, you know, they don't know what to do about Facebook. What are they supposed to do about?
I mean, you have in mind, right, those clips about the US Congress with Zuckerberg? They ask those two questions. You can answer yes or no. It's completely unuseful.
Yeah. They don't understand. So I think in terms, since this is also, you know, partially about foreign policy, they need people to understand, especially when regulatory is going to become a thing. I mean, just this past month with Tornado Cash and the sanctioning of that. I mean, I don't know, like, I don't work on regulatory, but I personally don't know if regulators completely understand what Tornado Cash is, like what a smart contract is. They sanctioned a technology. So I think there's going to be needing people who, you know, come from those backgrounds to be able to translate the technology for whatever they're doing. Now, in terms of like how to go through a job process, I think having your storyline and being able to connect your interest in blockchain, crypto, Web3 with your background is like really important, like anything else in the interview process. But in terms of like passion or like outside of school interest, I think, start interacting with the technology. I'm not going to give any financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor. So disclaimer, I think, crypto is a risky industry, and the best piece of advice that I got when I started interacting with cryptos was, if you want to invest in crypto, go for it, but only allow yourself to invest the amount that you're willing to lose. So whether it be $5, whether it be $5,000, like just expect that you could lose it all. It's a risky industry. And don't put your savings in this. Like, people are saying that they make huge margins out of this. You
can make also huge losses, definitely.
Right. So it's a high, low. So only be willing to invest as much as, again, I'm not a financial advisor, but the advice I got was only be willing to invest as much.
Always good to say, yeah. You mentioned smart contracts. I remember seeing this schedule a couple of months ago about all of the possibilities that smart contract would make possible. And how long are we from making that real?
Well, I mean, smart contracts already happen on Ethereum. And so, for instance, Tornado Cash is a smart contract based on Ethereum. And so basically, for those who don't know, like, the brief sentence is that, like, it's a software tool that, like, if you meet a certain amount of requirements, like, completes the transaction. So it's sort of like, it already sort of happens in centralized authorities. Like, when you post a picture on Facebook, like, there's a certain rules that you have to follow, and Facebook then, like, puts that out there in the world. But it sort of gets rid of the intermediary. And for instance, like, if there's two parties, party A and party B, and you sign a contract and party A doesn't meet that part of the contract, party B in real life will go to the courts or, like, use a lawyer and, like, sue and say you have to follow these rules. Now, this just encodes it and gets rid of that intermediary and says, like, sorry, you didn't meet that requirement, so we can't run it for you. So that's basically how transactions work. I think it's been more tested on Ethereum. Like, it's been tested. It's really an Ethereum based thing. Yeah.
I think that basic concept of getting rid of the intermediary is one of the most attractive things. Like, anyone who's been interested in crypto and blockchain, as soon as you read something about this, you're like, this is really an opportunity. This is really interesting.
Yeah.
This changes a lot of games.
Yeah. I mean, like, and it goes beyond that. It goes with a tradition, like, within the traditional finance space. Now, I don't know when this is being posted online, but I'm writing a piece about a very, like, sensitive topic in the United States, and it'll be published this week. So that's why I don't know if you're publishing this right away, but they have access. They have a hard time accessing their products because they've been put under watch by the banks, and no one, like, they don't want, like, that certain industry doesn't want their products to be used, or the banks don't want they want them to use their platform for that. And so some of them, like, some of these retailers have turned to crypto as a way of being able to sell and buy that product. So I don't, like, I want to say, but I don't know if this is being posted right away. If, like, it's so, but yeah.
And some people say that centralized wallets are, like, completely against the ideas of the blockchain itself. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean,
should they use just Metamask and just let Coinbase and Kraken go away?
It depends who you ask. I personally use Metamask. I also use Coinbase. I think just the nature of having a blockchain makes it like, you're able to sort of see the transaction happen. If you want to use a privacy protocol to have some kind of privacy, you can. Well, I guess don't use Tornado Cash if you're in this country and a US citizen, because you will be put on a sanctioned list. And so it just depends on, like, how comfortable you are with like how not like, because the aim of all this is to make it decentralized, and you know, some entities are more centralized than others. It just depends on like what you're comfortable with in terms of in that sense, your cryptocurrencies and your finances.
Okay. And one last thing about the merge is, what are the risks? Like, what could go wrong?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm hopeful that like it's going to go really well, because they've been doing a lot of testing and they're constantly testing. Like they've had the test networks tested as well, but they do shadow forks as well, which basically is like a way of testing smaller things leading up to the merge. You know, there's a lot of things that are based on the Ethereum blockchain. It's really a big ecosystem, and there's a lot of risk with that. So I can't say what would go wrong. There's
Okay.
so much possibility out there, but I'm really hopeful, just because like I talked to the developers, and you know, it's a complicated language, this technology, that mainstream doesn't necessarily understand, and so I'm trying hard to be able to translate that. But you know, when they hear something goes offline or something unsynced, sometimes it's not as scary as what they think it is. It's like a quick resolve. So
yeah, it has always made the big news, but after a while, we are still here. It's still going on.
It's just yeah,
it's just part of the process, and technology has ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot, Margaux. That
was
all I wanted to ask. Thanks a lot for giving us great insights about this interesting work.
Thank you. Thanks, you too.